Welcome to Vibrant Voices. I'm your host, Charles Allen. Okay, everyone, welcome to the show. Welcome to Vibrant Voices. Today we have a guest, Diego Rodrigues from Alma Family Service here in LA. Diego, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you for having me in your show.
A great. I've been looking forward to talking to you and getting to know the organization that you work for and the things that they do in the community. So the first thing I want to do is ask you a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to work for the organization.
Of course. So once again, Diego Rodrigues. I am originally from Brazil, and I arrived in the United States as an unaccompanied minor when I was a teenager. And as a teen away from family and new in a new culture, new language, I needed a lot of guidance. And I was very fortunate to develop a connection with a school counselor who had a background in mental health, in counseling. And that counselor, Ms. Levario was her name. She had such a big impact in my life, in my personal life, that inspired me to wanted to become a counselor someday as well, and perhaps a therapist and work with youth that goes through, some of the same challenges that I went through when I was young. So fast forward many years later, after I pursued my education, I got a bachelor's in mental health, in psychology, a master's degree in psychology, but more specifically in clinical psychology. And after working for a couple of nonprofits, I joined Alma 18 years ago as a school-based therapist, so working with kids in elementary and middle school. And for the next couple of years, I had the opportunity of working with a number of local schools in the Pico Rivera area, but also with different stakeholders, um, including um, partners that were involved in violence reduction, which is a work that is very close to my heart. And through that work, I became more involved with the development side of Alma, working to create new programs, to implement new initiatives, foster new partnerships, to make sure that our mission would translate into meaningful services for families every day.
Okay, that's great. It seems that your history, being an honor conduct, being coming here when you were a minor
Mhm.
and and just coming through the ranks, it sort of puts you up for the place, it sort of bring you to the place where you are now because the folks in the community maybe have similar path
Mhm.
uh you took to get here. And so that puts you in a good place where you can relate to the individuals that you're serving. So what I want to know now is give us a little bit history of Alma Family Service, how it came into be, and how you feel that your history help with their history and your history help shape what you do today.
Of course. So there's a term in my field, right, in behavioral health, that is called lived experience, right? Lived experience is when you have been through it, you learned from it, and now you can give it back. And Alma is all about lived experience. Alma was started by parents of children with special needs in 1975 in East LA. And these parents were seeking services, resources, opportunities for their children to be supported, to be embraced, towards their growth beyond being seen only as children with special needs, if that makes sense. The truth is that back in 1975, right, the infrastructure of support for children with special needs was still being developed. So Alma was started during that period, around the civil rights movement, around the Chicano movement, around different movements that were fighting for the rights of individuals that were marginalized, of individuals that were from immigrant communities, and also the special needs community. And we started very small. Alma started in the basement of a local church, just a few families, concerned parents, um, working to bring experts and professionals to uh, pursue opportunities for services for their children. So the organization was created from very simple, very humble beginnings, but from a very powerful belief, right? That the families should not have to navigate hardship alone. That families, when they come together, right, they have the power not only to support themselves, but to transform communities, especially if given the opportunity to be at the table and to work with systems and developments of support, right? So that's how Alma started. In the Across the next few decades, we grew into a small, still primarily mental health service provider. So uh, most of what we did was related to counseling or psychotherapy. But over the last 20 years or so, um, new programs were developed, tackling different areas, right, of need. So education, workforce development, housing insecurity, food insecurity. So within the last 20 years, Alma started a preschool program, services for to socialize and to provide life skills training for individuals with special needs. A number of different violence reduction programs as well, including a prevention program under gang reduction, which is funded by the city of Los Angeles, right? The LA mayor's office. So we have been expanding in terms of the resources that we're being able to provide to community. And that growth wasn't just for the sake of, growing in numbers or growing in number of sites or growing in number of staff. That growth was quite organic because it was a byproduct of us saying yes to opportunities that were coming our way and finding creative ways to meet the needs of the community. So that's how we grew, really, um, at a faster pace, especially 2 years or so, and in a more accelerated pace within the last 10 years or so. And we can talk a little bit about that because as we responded to emerging crisis, right, and the ever evolving needs of the community, we had the opportunity of growing as well.
Okay, great. So let's go back for a second. You say that Alma got started in a church basement. So, and you grow over the past 20 years. What were similar like the challenges of those first early years, and how was the response from the community?
Mhm.
Were you guys, what challenges did you guys face when you
Mhm.
started? What kind of roadblocks? How did the community welcome you? Did you guys got questioned? And then your funding, how did all of that sort of come about? And what was some of your greatest challenge in the early days of the of
Sure, sure. So the early days of Alma, and I'm a big fan of history, a lover of history. So I appreciate talking about our foundational days because that's where our core principles, right, and our values were forged that continue to inform who we are today, right? And to your question, what are some of the greatest challenges that we face? Well, the greatest challenge was to quite literally create something that just wasn't there, right? It didn't exist at the time. In the 70s, and that's public knowledge. The misconception was that individuals with special needs did not experience mental health needs the same way of uh, um, that typical developing individuals did. Meaning, it was assumed that just because a child had Down syndrome, they didn't experience depression or they didn't experience anxiety. That someone that was in the autism spectrum, which back then was, very misunderstood, didn't experience anger issues and or urges, right? As a typically developing child or adolescent. So I think the greatest challenge really was re-educating um, those that were in positions of power at the time, and working in partnership with them to open opportunities for the community to receive support, right? And to receive services. And at the same time, working with the community on the stigma of social services, right? More specifically, mental health. As you know, there's a huge stigma around mental health to this day, right? If you're uh, um, you go on social media, for example, right? Mental health, it still seems to be in the spectrum where it's either used for humor, right? Sake. So if you have a mental health issue, there's something wrong with you, and you become the butt of the joke, right? Or and the other extreme, which is if you have a mental health issue, then you must be a unstable, violent, individual. And that's couldn't be farthest from the truth because as we know, mental health needs are very prevalent, right? And I believe the American Psychological Association um, has put out an estimate out there that about 1 to 4 individuals, if I'm not mistaken, might have experienced mental health needs in their lives, right? So, um, addressing that stigma early on was one of the main challenges. Um, Normalizing the need for support, right, for these families was one of the first challenges. And then, of course, building the infrastructure, right? Because as we know, um, there there are multiple needs in our community, and some of those needs are interconnected. There are some nexus for those needs, and some of those needs are very specific and require proportionally specific type of funding, right? And support from different systems. So over the year, we've been very fortunate to be able to work with multiple systems of care. Alma works with the County Department of Mental Health, the LA County Department of Public Health, the LA County Department of Health Services. We have worked with the State Department of Education, with regional centers, with local hospitals and regional hospitals. So, yes, one of the challenges was building the infrastructure, and our response was, well, that infrastructure can be built in partnership, in collaboration, by building bridges with um, passionate, knowledgeable individuals who work within those systems and want to support community as well, right? And then finding creative ways of making services accessible while also addressing the stigma, which I mentioned earlier, right? So families will be willing and open to reaching out and to seeking out services. So I think those are some of the challenges that we face in the early days. Um, More recently, we have faced some shared challenges that, unfortunately, right, impacted organizations not only in our region but around the globe, um, such as COVID, for example, right, which was a huge, tremendous challenge across social services in all fields, right? Um, but there are different stressors, right? As the ongoing housing stability, for example, economic stress, right? Immigration related fears. There are other challenges that continue to impact our communities, especially the most vulnerable communities, which are the communities that we serve.
Okay. So I want to touch, you mentioned like the mental health, like Down syndrome, how people had like a misconception of, what these individuals was going through. At, did you guys create a specific type of program to address those needs? I know you talked about some of the shareholders within the community to address this problem, but did you have like uh, a plan, a program where you say, you know what, if we go down this road, we can answer some of those questions, we can solve some of those issues by looking at the data and presenting the data and coming up with a strategy to address the concerns of, let's say, um, parents of mental challenging kids. I don't know if I
Yeah,
pronounced.
yeah, yeah. No, that's an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked it. So, because of course, I don't like to brag, and I don't want
Okay.
to brag, but I am very proud of Alma's uh, um, response to the needs of the special needs community over the years, since its very foundation, right? Because it was unique. Alma didn't parachute into a community and try to um, implement a one size fits all model, right, to work with this community. We actually work with families, alongside parents, right, and of course with the specialists, with the therapists, the coaches, and behavior analysts, to be able to develop different programs, but not only just programs, but truly a model, right? And an approach. And that has been, I think, best materialized at our center in East LA. So in East LA, Alma has a multi-purpose family center called Centro Estrella. And at Centro Estrella, about 25 years ago, um, once more, Alma brought families together, brought the community together, brought the specialists together to talk about the need for a safe space for individuals with special needs, children, adolescents, and adults, young adults and adults, um, to receive specialty care. But that specialty care should be multicultural, multilingual, and multi-generational. And different programs are created. I could mention a number of them, but I'll mention one, which is our community integration training, or CIT. And CIT was created for that purpose, and is a one of my favorite programs, and I'm not supposed to have favorites, but it's one of my favorite programs because it teaches individuals with special needs the very basic skills that they need to navigate the world, right? So it's not just about bringing them together and helping them socialize and develop pro-social skills, which is super important. Don't get me wrong. That is critical, right? To help them socialize, to help them build community. But we know that community is also built by shared interests, right? By coming together and finding shared purpose. And CIT takes these individuals into their own community, um, to provide access in spaces where they um, might typically not be able to go to, right? And to enhance their sense of independence as well. So it's helping them quite literally learn how to catch a bus, how to go to a grocery store, and how to put together a monthly budget to understand the value of money, right? Not just the little but value of money, but the broader sense as well, right? But the program goes beyond and teaches them uh, um, different skills that touch on employability, helps them write a resume. It helps them understand the value of education and pursuing education. And we have a number of individuals that, when they first came to Alma, they were not even going to school. And those are individuals that not only went back to school, someone went to go to college. We have folks that have gone on to now be interested in and to pursue in work in the community. And I think the CIT program is a great example as to the importance of acknowledging, supporting, normalizing um, the interests of individuals with special needs, and to seeing them and treating them as unique individuals who can contribute to their communities way beyond their disability. And that was unique. That was novel. And we're glad to see that replicated now. And there are different programs and there are different spaces where this work is done. But that has been true to Alma from the very beginning. And that's, as I said, it's not just a service, it's an approach, right? That approach is replicated through other programs, such as our preschool, where in our preschool, we don't have a special needs class where a child with Down syndrome or a child with um, um, in the autism spectrum or with cerebral palsy will sit by themselves or they'll have a separate teacher. No, in our preschool, all kids are together. They learn together, they play together, they grow together, and they are equals. And yes, we do have teachers there have a background in behavioral support and can step in and assist when uh, uh, the kids with special needs might benefit from that from their presence. With that said, the whole purpose is to um, promote inclusion that goes beyond just the cliches, right? Of like bringing folks together, but really promote inclusion where our individuals with special needs are treated as equals and have equal opportunities and are empowered to contribute, right, to their communities as well. And that type of approach is replicated through all the programs that we offer.
Well, that's really what I like about what you just said and what I can, as I'm listening to it, it sounds very practical. It sounds like what the individual, you're going by the individual's needs and you're being practical about your approach and how you handle these um, people that seek your service. And I really love that. I love a practical approach to a situation as opposed to, like something out of, not really what's the word I'm looking for? Something somebody come up with but hasn't implemented, but it's more of a theory than
Yeah.
being practical. And what you just stated is that you guys are on the ground, you're invested, and you see that these things are working because you are hands-on. Would you say that's a fair assumption of what you just said, or a summary of what you just said?
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful summary of what I just said. Of course, we do have our models of change and as I said, right, different principles and values. And um, I'm a theorist at heart. I believe in the value of evidence-based practices and evidence-informed models in working with not only individuals with special needs, but with community at large. With that said, um, at the end of the day, right, change comes about one person at a time. We understand that when people come through our doors, they might have a very explicit need, right? They might be telling us an explicit need, but people carry multiple pressures at once, right? People carry, we all carry multiple stressors at once, right? And that's why we work with one individual at a time, understanding that those that come across our doors, they do not come alone. So it's not just the individual, but the whole family really becomes a client. A whole family becomes a participant of Alma, and that their needs, again, may be uh, um, presented to us within a silo, but they may be part of more complex issues, right? And that's why our response has to be um, equally broad, right? And um, we believe in leveraging um, to support our community, to support our participants, our clients, right? Where, yes, they come across the door for maybe a mental health need, but we also have parenting programs that they can benefit from. We have an aquatics program, and maybe if they take on swimming, right, and aqua fitness, now they are get some good wellness habits going, and they're working not only in their mental health but also their physical health. They connect with participants of other programs. Now they start making friends. So you're breaking patterns of isolation. So yes, to your point, we look into very practical ways of impacting um, our participants, our clients, and improving their quality of life.
That that leads me to the next question, because with all those programs and things that you're doing within the community, especially with nonprofits, partnerships are important aspect of it. What kind of collaborations are you guys having with or other organizations to make the community a little easier to live in?
Yeah, you're right, Charles. Partnerships are central, right, to the work that nonprofits do, and they are the core of who we are at Alma. Um, um, since our foundation, we have worked collaboratively, as I said, right, with local systems of care, with regional departments. We work with over 100 schools across 6 school districts. The county departments that we work with include Department of Mental Health, Department of Health Services, Department of Public Health, Department of Youth Development, with I mentioned the regional centers, California State of Education, uh, um, um, education department. So there are a number of institutions that we partner with, but we also partner with other healthcare providers, with community coalitions, with grassroots leaders in the community. Because the reality is that no single organization can meet all community needs alone, right? So collaboration has allowed us to respond more fully and responsibly, and to your earlier point, but also has provided at times opportunities for us to leverage resources as well. So um, I mentioned earlier COVID, right? During the COVID years, for example, when we were first confronted with COVID, um, we've opened our sites to become food and PPE distribution centers. And while a lot of, and we understand why they had to, right? But while a lot of other community centers and spaces were closed, our sites were open because they became a hub where community could come to and get their masks and get their gloves and hand sanitizers, but also at one point to get their vaccines. So we partnered with the Department of Public Health and we became a site for vaccination clinics at different occasions. At one point, we would have vaccination clinics almost bi-weekly. Um, and later on, we started bringing support groups and healing circles for community. All the while distributing food, distributing diapers, distributing, and all of that was done through partnerships by bringing different organizations together, by um, providing a space where people could bring their strengths, right, their resources, and where we could craft a response to a very complex issue, right? On our own, yes, we could have had an impact, but together, collaboratively, we had a much broader, a true regional impact, right? That supported thousands of families with warm meals, um, clothing items, with uh, um, different type of like tangible resources that they needed during that time.
I mean, that's great because it shows that you guys are can adapt to the needs of the community. So what I just heard there was, okay, we were able because of COVID and the unique situations that the community found themselves in, you guys were able to adapt and facilitate some programs to help ease the stress of COVID for the community. Um, One of the things that I was so excited about having you here on the podcast was to let people know about this organization and to let folks know that this organization exists. That's one of the reasons I wanted you here on the podcast, and also to let folks know that you guys, because of all the years that you are been in the community, um, our Vision Caribbean Latino Film Festival is recognizing the work that you guys did for the community, and it's honoring you guys with an award. One of the things I also would love my listeners to know, if someone wanted to help impact and support your mission, how would they go about doing that?
Of course. Well, first, I just want to thank you, Charles, and thank you once again for the honor of being here in this space to promote not only the work that Alma does, right, but the work that organizations such ours have been doing in the community to meet the, our needs. Um, and in terms of how can you support Alma more specifically, right? You can support Alma by learning more about local needs in your community, by volunteering with us, by attending community events. Alma Family Services does have a presence in social media. You can find us our website at www.almafamilyservices.org altogether. And once again, www.almafamilyservices.org. We are on Facebook under Alma Family Services. We are on Instagram. So you can learn about the different events and activities that we have throughout the year. We do have opportunities for volunteers to support community uh, service days and community cleanups. We have resource fairs. We have 5Ks to get community moving, right? And once again, develop those wellness, a good wellness habits. Um, but you can also help is by amplifying the importance of social services and family support. So it's really important that we all become well informed, right, of what are the needs of within our communities, who the helpers are in our communities, right, and what can we do, whether it be volunteering or donating our time or just amplifying the voices of those that are going through intense need, right? And that sometimes may be connecting with your local service provider, with the local department um, of either behavioral health or public health, or youth development, and finding opportunities, right, to become engaged. Alma does offer such opportunities. Once again, you're more than welcome to find us online. Um, we welcome um, all of those who have supported us over the years. And I just want to give a shout out to folks that have supported us in very tangible ways, right? And just giving an example, early last year, during the historic wildfires that we went through, right? We've jump into action right away. Quite literally, a couple of days after the wildfires, Alma opened a care center for individuals who were impacted in any way by the fires, including individuals who did not live in the area, but maybe they worked in the area. Maybe they are now welcoming family that was uh, um, leaving the area impacted by the fire. And our care center was put together with the support of volunteers, with the support of community members who wanted to also give back, with the support of organizations such as the Gonzalez Market, for example, who provided grocery vouchers for community in need, with the support of the Department of Mental Health that partnered with us to provide the emotional support, right, for individuals who went through trauma, with the support of individuals who wanted to donate. And in our website at www.almafamilyservices.org, there is an opportunity for those who would like to donate, knowing that those funds were going to directly to services for the community. So if you would like to learn more, once again, um, please search for us, look us up, and we would love to have folks volunteering and contributing to future activities and events in the community to help families in need.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things I usually ask folks when when we're wrapping up our show, looking ahead, what is the vision for Alma Family Service in the community?
That's an excellent question. Um, well, Charles, Alma Family Services has been around for over 50 years now. We went from a small church basement to now being at 17 service sites across the region. We serve over 18,000 people every year across 27 different programs and services for community. So we have grown quite a bit. I believe the vision is to remain deeply rooted on our foundational values, to continue to grow, right, thoughtfully, expanding access, strengthening prevention services, investing in youth and families, helping shape healthier communities. So the vision for our future is staying true to who we are and who we have been, staying true to our past, right, to our foundation, so we can continue to promote inclusion, acceptance, access, empowerment, not as an exception, not as something that you do um, only in small specific programs for unique marginalized communities, but as a norm, right, as something that is as a model, as a strategy that applies for community at large. That is our vision, right? Is to stay true to who we have been, stay rooted in our values, and continue to grow. Again, to be able to meet the challenges of tomorrow, right? The needs of community continue to evolve, so must we. So we hope to
Yes.
continue to evolve to be able to serve our communities and to improve the quality of life one person at a time.
That's great. So we want to thank Diego Rodrigues from Alma Family Service for being on our show and just educating us and enlightening us to what the organization does and how it has roots in the community. So Diego, thank you very much for coming on the show. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you for tuning in to the show. Please subscribe, like, and follow.